Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have the final of Wave 2 for the Tyrannosaur series. Yes, we are already through Wave 2, and now all that is left is Wave 3, and then, of course, all the other incredibly cool stuff that's going to come after that when it comes to, like, Cyberzoic and the other beasts of the Mesozoic, because it seems like after the Tyrannosaur series, we kind of leave that idea of creating certain species and numerous of them, whereas we're just kind of going to be all over the place. We have all different sorts of species and from all different family trees coming into the beasts of the Mesozoic line, which is actually really exciting if you ask me. But the final figure in the second wave of the Tyrannosaur series is the Qianzhousaurus, and you can see the figure. From what we can see, we've got the window area there and some gorgeous artwork, but the figure looks really cool. Definitely another very interesting paint scheme, very flashy, I would say, but at the same time looks like it could be naturalistic. We won't truly tell, I guess, until we get it out of the package and take a look at it. But you can see, in typical beasts of the Mesozoic fashion, we've got the Tyrannosaur series down here. You can also see that this is another 1/18th scale release. You've got the species name, the beasts of the Mesozoic logo, and then again, like I said, the really nice artwork over here. On the side, you've got, again, Beasts of the Mesozoic Tyrannosaur series, and then you see all the same stuff you usually do throughout, but then on the back, again, you've got a really nice shot of the figure, some information on the species, as well as the checklist of all the other figures in the Tyrannosaur series, all of which now we have reviewed on the channel except for this one. So let's pop it out of the box and check it out. So first of all, we've got ourselves the assembly instructions, which will show you how to assemble your figure, switch out the legs, all of that stuff, or actually I should say feet in this case, and to do that safely without breaking your figure. So if you are unfamiliar with these figures, definitely give that a read first. We've also got the card, which the card sports some awesome artwork here. Looks like our Qianzhousaurus is maybe a little itchy. Looks like he's giving himself a nice little scratch right there, but definitely looks really cool. And it's always neat to see these dinosaurs with like a very realistic interpretation of them, with again the same coloration and everything that you see on the figures themselves. I always like that. But then here on the back you can see again a little dino toy photography, as well as the species name, information on the species, as well as the Beasts of the Mesozoic logo and the Creative Beast Studio website, where you can purchase every Beasts of the Mesozoic figure you might be interested in. And we've also got the connection pieces for the base, which you can see. You've got quite a few different versions there that you can use, as well as the alternating feet. You've got like closed toe options and open toe options, and the feet are kind of bent, so it looks like the foot's kind of leaving the ground and stuff. So you can switch the feet out, and they make sure that they again have you covered when it comes to any type of diorama or visual you want to create with your dinosaur. You'll be able to do that with the alternate feet and everything that they give you for these figures. Then, of course, we have the base, and I think the base looks pretty nice. It's actually quite different than most of the bases that we've seen lately from the Tyrannosaur series, and this base specifically, I think, kind of a little bit of a breath of fresh air just because it is so different. And, of course, the star of the show, which is the figure itself, and it absolutely is gorgeous. It really is. I actually like this one a lot more in person than I was expecting to, and I don't think that there was ever a chance that I was going to dislike it, but the coloration just looks really, really good here in person on this one. Again, very flashy, but at the same time very naturalistic, and the sculpt also looks phenomenal like it always does. I never have any doubts when it comes to the actual sculpt of these figures and how good they'll look. So, as always, let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at it right now. So, starting up here at the head sculpt of our figure, you can see we've got a really nice looking appearance. You've got that nice elongated look for the head sculpt. Exactly what you would expect to see for this species, and it looks very nice. The fine detail as well looks really good. You can see they've done a very good job of highlighting all of the scale detail, especially up here in this lighter area. You can kind of see how there's like a reddish tone underneath the scale detail, showing you just how impressive the actual sculpt is as a whole. We have the nostrils sculpted out, of course. Some nice detailing there around the eye. The eye itself is painted with a yellow, given a black pupil, as well as a very nice gloss coat, which helps to give it a nice realistic eye shine. Quite a bit of coloration going on here in the face, as you've got these lighter tones, the red kind of creeping through. You've got variations of red all over. You have black striping through, even a little bit of blue there in the eye socket. So definitely a lot of coloration here in the face of this figure. You've also got this light gray running up here along that crest area on the top of the head. We do have an articulated jaw, as you would expect. Nice pinkish tone there for the inside of the mouth. You can see that the teeth are sculpted very nicely. The tongue as well is sculpted nicely back there. And everything seems to be painted very nicely. Also sports a nice gloss coat for the inside of the mouth. You can see the teeth there on the upper side of the inside of the mouth also look very good. Very nicely sculpted, nicely painted, and everything looks honestly perfect as far as the paintwork goes. There's just zero sloppiness there on the inside of the mouth of the figure. As you move back here a little bit further into the neck region, you begin to see the ear pick up right there. You can also see some creasing as you move back. There's a joint of articulation right here, which is super, super smooth. You can see it can go all over the place. Very, very nice mobility in that area. But as you move down through the course of the neck, if you turn the figure, let the light hit it, you can see not only how nice the scale detail looks, but also, again, more creasing and just general skin detail. Lots of skin wrinkles and stuff as you move down here into the throat region. You've got a little bit of yellow running along here before we transition to a variation of like an off-white. And then you get down here into the body, and again, you've got a nice spot of articulation right there, which can go up, down, left, right, all over the place, which again is why we can get such beautiful posability in that neck. You do see a little bit of that blue pick up right there, just a little bit of a small stripe, but as we lead back here into the body, you get much larger striping of that blue, and that really stands out. Definitely the coloration on this figure that I think makes the entire figure pop and just, again, really make you take notice to it. You can make out the shoulder blade, and as you move down into the arms, you can see the arms are sculpted quite nicely, and we have even more articulation down here as you've got the shoulder joint. You also have the elbow, which is super stiff right now. Looks like the wrist is kind of positioned a little bit goofy. Kind of got to get this turned so we can get it facing the right way. But you can see again that the fingers are sculpted pretty nicely. You've got some nicely sculpted and painted nails there. Nice glossy black for the nails. And you do have more articulation right there in the wrist of the figure as well. As you move up here into the stomach region, you can again see some more absolutely gorgeous looking scale detail. Look at that scale detail. That looks fantastic as you move through. But you can see a ton of skin wrinkles and skin folds and stuff as you lead down here into the lower part of the stomach. More of that light tone here running along the underside. But you can see that there's like a dry brushing or a wash of a different tone of color down there. And actually looks more like a dry brushing that helps to highlight the scale detail there on the underside of the dinosaur. As you lead up here, you can see the spinal column running along the back of the body. You can also, of course, see the hip bone right there. And then as you move down into the thigh, we have quite a bit more coloration going on, like a lot of it. You've got the black tone, which is a large portion of the upper part of the body. You also can see some variations of browns kind of creeping up within the black. You can also see the blues. We've got a lighter tone here in the front, a different tone of blue, kind of like a slightly lighter tone of blue. And then we've got the reddish tones, and then you've got this light tone in the back. Like there's just a ton of coloration going on there in the thigh area. You can also pick up on how nice the muscle definition looks in both the thigh as well as the calf as you move down the front of the leg. You've got a little bit more of that darker tone running down there over the knee before disappearing, and then the majority of the leg is like this reddish tone, but we have this really cool striping effect moving down that area of the leg, and that looks very nice. And then as you move down into the foot sculpt, again, of course, we've got a very nice, very bird-like foot sculpt for the dinosaur. You can see the scoots running down the front of the foot, down into the toes, and specifically the paintwork, I think, of the feet here look fantastic, like extremely realistic. This one section of this figure might be some of my favorite paintwork that I've seen on any of these beasts of the Mesozoic Tyrannosaur series releases. I just think that the paintwork of the feet on this one are as realistic as you could probably get. You can also see, again, we've got the nails painted with that nice glossy black. We've also got the dew claw over there. And then as you move back up, you've got some more skin wrinkles right there. As you lead out, you can see a blue stripe, a red stripe, a little bit of a yellow stripe running down, and then the black on the upper part as you lead out the length of the tail. And the blue does disappear, as does the yellow and the lighter tone of the underside, but you can see we've got the red, and then we've got the black as you lead out there toward the tip, and they follow the entire way out. And then, of course, you can see the underside sports some really nice sculpt, really nice paint, not anything too different than what we've seen through the course of the figure, but it is all very nicely done. And once you look at the opposing side of the figure, you're really not going to see much difference because, of course, being a superposable, super articulated figure, there's not going to be a whole lot on this side that you didn't already see on the initial side. But, of course, that means it's very nice, consistent, and absolutely beautiful on both sides. The only thing I am picking up on, actually, is the fact that we have like these little yellow spots behind the eye, and we didn't really see that over here. You can see that there is a spot sort of thing going on here, but it looks more like a pinkish tone. I don't know if that's something that was actually meant to be, or maybe that's a slight paint mishap on mine, but that's actually pretty interesting. But other than that, definitely looks pretty much the same over here compared to what we had seen on the initial side. Also, as far as the articulation of the remainder of the figure goes, kind of lost track after we left the arm area. We do have a spot in the midsection here, which can go up and down a little bit. Mostly left and right is a little bit of a better area of articulation. You've also got the hip as well as the knee, which is a little bit stiff. And then you've got two spots of articulation as you move down. You can articulate those very nicely and even swivel those areas. And then, of course, another spot of articulation right here for the tail. And the tail itself is a wire tail, so you have even more articulation, technically, even more posability for your absolutely incredible Qianzhousaurus. Then we've also got the base, and the base here kind of has like a little bit of like a muddy kind of a look, I think. Definitely looks like maybe it's recently rained and it's kind of starting to dry up, so we have sort of like a slightly damp, kind of a muddy look, because it does have a little bit of a shine to it, but the actual sculpt looks very nice, and there is quite a bit of paint application within this area. You can see a little bit of variation of color, and then you've also got some very dark vegetation running around the outer edge of the earthy area here. So that looks very nice, and there is actually some paint application in there that you can see different varying tones of darker variations of greens within the vegetation. So definitely a nice looking base. I like that it's so different from a lot of the others, and the paint application, you usually see a lot of vibrant greens when it comes to the vegetation and stuff. This one has a lot darker as far as the majority of the coloration goes. So definitely a really cool base to go with an incredible model. And of course, as always, we'd like to do a little test to see if the figure can stand completely freely on its own, which I'm sure it can because they always can. And there you go. There is your proof that this figure absolutely can stand very nicely, freely of the base. No base absolutely needed, but it's always fun, in my opinion, to have a base. I definitely enjoy having bases on my figures. As far as a size goes, for a length from the snout to the tail, about 12.5 inches, or right around 32 centimeters. And then for a height to the back of the neck, you're looking at about the 4.25 inch range, or around 11 centimeters. But of course, that is all dependent on you and how you position your figure, because you could, of course, alter those areas of length and height if you want to, articulate your figure, move it around. You can make it taller, you can curve the tail and stuff to make it a little bit shorter. But for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Golovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Beasts of the Mesozoic Qianzhousaurus, and you can see, again, it's a pretty decently sized figure. It's not small or anything by any means, but when it comes to the Tyrannosaur series, it is one of the smaller species and one of the smaller figures. It's just not actually small. Being a 1/18th scale figure, you do expect at least a little bit of size to it. And then, of course, here's a Mattel Velociraptor for another comparison to help kind of give you an idea of the size. Then we've got a nice crowded view of numerous extras here, as we have the Collect Date Deluxe Dimetrodon, the Safari LTD, Eutyrannus, and Schleich Diabloceratops. And then for another size comparison that I think will definitely help to put into perspective the size of this figure, you've got the Teratophonius here standing in for a comparison, and you can see these two are pretty similar in size overall, which means this is also about the same size as the juvenile Tyrannosaurus that they had released in Wave 1. So if you happen to have that figure, you'll also have a pretty good idea of the size here. We've also got another one of my favorites from this series. We have the Guanlong here, and you can see the Guanlong is definitely quite a bit smaller. As well as another one, and the final one that we'll compare here, that is definitely a Wave 2 favorite for me, as we have the Dryptosaurus here next to our Qianzhousaurus, and you can definitely see, again, a pretty big size difference between these two. So this brand new Beasts of the Mesozoic Tyrannosaur Series 1/18th scale Super Articulated Qianzhousaurus is fantastic, as it always is when it comes to this line of figures. This one actually would be very high on my list of favorites, I think, when it comes to this line overall, and that's kind of surprising to me because I didn't expect that. I actually expected, to like it, of course. I definitely expected to like it, but I expected it to be a little bit lower on my list of favorites, and shockingly, that's the actual opposite. It's definitely very high on my list of favorites from this series. They did a great job on the sculpt, of course, very impressive, very highly detailed, and also very accurate to what the dinosaur looks like. So straight away, they did a fantastic job of recreating this species in super articulated action figure form. The thing that, again, was like, at first, I was like, oh, I'm not so sure how much I like it, is the paint scheme and paint application. But having it here, it actually looks fantastic. The blue striping and the way it plays off of all of the other tones of color looks so good on the figure and somehow looks very natural. Like, I just thought it looked really neat at first, but I didn't know how naturalistic it looked. Like, if you look at other dinosaurs in the series, like the Dryptosaurus or the Proceratosaurus or even the Bistahieversur, which we had recently taken a look at as well, I just feel like those paint schemes are obviously natural. Whereas this one is like one of those paint schemes where you look at it and you're like, well, at first when you see the promo images, you think maybe it could be, but you're not really sure until you see it in person, and you can really appreciate how nice the paint scheme actually is and how much more naturalistic it looks than you probably realize. Or at least that's the way it worked for me. That's the way I feel. But again, the paint scheme looks very cool. The sculpt looks very cool. We also have tons of articulation, giving you the ability to pretty much pose it any way you want. You also have the alternate feet to switch those out and, create even more posability. And you have a really nice base on top of everything, and I love having bases for my dinosaur figures. Not only does it help you feel more secure when displaying them and they're, on the base nice and solid, so it's not going to be an issue of the figure falling over, it also just kind of creates a really nice visual of the dinosaur in its habitat. So if you are interested in picking this up, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that on the Creative Beast Studio website. So make sure you check that link, go grab this gorgeous figure, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.